in our history lecture set, we are now focusing on Europe. Actually, we required this to study world history, and therefore we are focusing on Europe. You are aware that in ancient days, certain civilizations were there in Europe. Certain prehistoric cultures were also observed. Then certainly that is Cro-Magnon man, Neanderthal man, like that, whatever the prehistoric man was there, that fossils and certain cultures we can search out in Europe. But by the 3000 BC, the much of the historical developments were not taking place in Europe. Only Greeks and Romans become advanced in earlier days. Rest of the parts of Europe were not that civilized. Somewhere around 2800 years ago, 2800 BC, around that, Greeks and then Roman civilization occur. Then onwards, the Greeks developed their civilization to a zenith, particularly after the Alexander the Great's invasion. But then onwards, slowly and steadily, Greeks lost out their empire. The place was taken by Roman Empire. Keep in mind, whether it is Greek Empire or Roman Empire, both empires were having success outside the Europe. Say for example, the Greek Empire that was there from Greece, parts of Asia Minor, then entire Syria, Israel, like that, the desert till Egypt, and then till India, river Indus. So it was having existence in Greece. Today we can call it as Macedonia also. So Greece, Macedonia, etc., that part, some territories in Balkan, and then rest of the empire was there outside Europe. The second Roman Empire, that was there all over Mediterranean Sea. But keep in mind, all over Mediterranean Sea, that means consisting of Spain, parts of Portugal, Spain, half of England, parts south of France, Italy. I am not drawing map purposefully because I am aware that you can visualize whatever I am visualizing. Then Greece, and then Asia Minor onwards, that is part of Asia, not Europe. So this way, the Roman Empire as well as Greek Empire, that was having considerable less empire in Europe, but rather it was there in Asia and Africa continent. After decline of first Roman Empire, that is because of continuous attack from invaders. First they were invaded by Vandals. Why Vandals invaded? Because Huns displaced them. Then onwards there was terrible attack and almost total economical collapse carried out by attack of Huns over Roman Empire, particularly Western Roman Empire, because Eastern Roman Empire that managed to deal with Hun by giving them certain tribute, not by fighting but by tribute. But Western Roman Empire continued, and therefore Western Roman Empire was terribly troubled by Hun. And after that there was another tribe that was invading from north of Europe, that was Visigoth. Visigoths established their empire in Spain by defeating out Roman part in that territory. Then onwards, various tribes continued their attack and Roman Empire came to end. Certain people, they are called as Frank people, resident of eastern parts of France, northeast part of France and southwest part of Germany. The Frank people developed their empire under leadership of Charlemagne. It was written as Charlesmen. While spelling, they are writing out Charlesmen, but they are the name of that person pronounced as Charlemagne. So under leadership of Charlemagne they developed. But soon he declared that Christianity will be base of Roman Empire, this empire. And so Pope called that empire as Holy Roman Empire. This is not by Roman people. The empire was set out by Frank people, but it was called as Holy Roman Empire. Now, what happened exactly in Europe, particularly during Roman Empire? The important incident that was there, that was acception of Christianity by Roman Emperor Constantine. And then onwards, Christianity became parts of Europe. Actually, many people are having misconception that Christianity was originated in Europe. No, Christianity was originated in Asia. Jesus Christ was born in Israel, present day Israel. The place is there near Jerusalem. That place is called as Bethlehem. That is the birthplace of Jesus Christ. And what he preached out, that preachings are more similar to Buddhism. He preached out peace, non-violence, like that preaching. These preachings are given by Lord Buddha. Anyway, that is not our topic of discussion right now. But then onwards, Christianity spread in Europe and Romanization of Christian religion was carried out. Try to get meaning clearly. Romanization of Christian religion was carried out. The sacred place is not Bethlehem, not Jerusalem, but the sacred or most important place that become holy place, that is Vatican City. That is there in Italy, in the capital of Italy, that is Rome. That city, small city is there, that is called as Vatican City. That is called as now independent nation. So that is become that was become actually the sacred, most sacred place of Christianity. And then Bible was translated in Latin. Maybe possible original Bible may be there in Syrian language. Particularly Old Testament is very, very old. But New Testament was probably in Syrian language. That was translated to Latin. And then onwards, it became the dominating. Bible means Latin, like that. In case of Europe. Later on, the Christianity spread in Europe. All over Europe. Maybe possible because of Emperor Constantine. Then because of this type of invader like Frank, they accepted Christianity and therefore he was called as Holy Roman Emperor. So like that they spread. But after Charlemagne, the central power in Europe became weaker and weaker. And then there was rise of feudalism in Europe. What is the meaning of feudalism? The local lord that was become more prominent rather than king. In this particular phase, Europe was continuously victim of tribal attack. Maybe from north of Europe these attacks were carried out, from east of Europe these attacks were carried out, maybe possible Huns. Then onwards also continued to attacking on this territory in form of other names. Say for example Genghis Khan, you are aware. Then another invader named as Taimur Lung. So these Mongols continuously threatened out this part of Europe. But apart from that, various other Goths, that tribal people, they invaded this part. And there was no security for common man. So the lord of land, maybe possible a village, they started constructing out something like fort. That is not actual fort, but something like fort, that is called as manor. During this type of attack, villagers used to enter in manor. So the density become more in manor and fighting will be possible. Then security and various other things. So manor culture was flourished in Europe trade was almost flopped out, because now trades, say the world trade, or particularly trade from eastern part of world, that is China and India, to Europe, that was carried out first by most probably Indians, then by Persians to some extent, then by Greeks, then by Romans, and now by Arabs. Because of the Arab trade, Constantinople became dominant, whereas Italy, that is Venice, Geneva, like that cities, were now not at zenith. Instead of that, Constantinople flourished. Now keep in mind, Eastern Roman Empire was flourished, whereas Western Roman Empire was victim of foreign attacks. In this particular phase, the Europe was facing dark age because continuous foreign attacks were there. Apart from that, the central power was not strong. It was very, very weak power. King was not having that importance, whereas local landlord was more prominent. This we are particularly calling as feudalism. Now, the religion become more important rather than your life. Strictly obeying about the religious orders, then a sort of strictness about obeying religion. The height, we can say, that was there in parts of Spain, Portugal, we are calling that as Inquisition. That whether a person is following Christianity perfectly or not, and then harassment by church. Now, how we can believe this religion is religion of peace? Because terrible punishments were given under name of religion by these priests or fathers or whatever these people, I don't know. But only thing is that the religious activities become prominent, whereas local people were having problem because two centers were developed. One is called as political, that is under leadership of king or emperor, whereas second one, that was religious, under church. I am not saying pope and bishop and etc., but under leadership of under leadership of church become prominent. Sometime there was quarrel between pope and emperor. Who is the superior one, whether religious power or political power? So like that, problems were there in Europe in those days, because trade was not there, the flourishment was not there. Then after 7th century, Europe became victim of Arabian invaders, particularly Spain, where Visigoth kingdom was there. That Visigoth kingdom was overthrown by Moor Arabs, whereas from various part, for example, from 7th century, 8th century onwards till 15th century, the Spain was under rule of Arab invaders, whereas almost after 13th century, the Turks, they were not Mongoloid, but from Central Asia, these tribes, they accepted Islam, and then onwards they overrun the territory of Asia Minor. Now it is called as Turk or Turkestan. So that Turkey was occupied. A fellow named as Usman established his empire, and that empire spread out in eastern part of Europe by destroying whatever the traces of Byzantine Empire till that. And then these all empires, they are calling as Ottoman Empire. They were not able to pronounce Usman, so they called that as Ottoman Empire, that was there in Europe. So this is just, I was giving a background of Europe. Science and development was not much in Europe in those days, not today, but in those days. Certain people were carrying out that, but they were troubled out by church. The best example we can say here, that is Galileo. He was punished by church until 1992. His name was in blacklist in church. Anyway, this was the basic part, that what was the situation of Europe. Now in next lecture, I am going to draw a map and explain this fact. Why I have not drawn map over here? Because my basic idea is that after discussing various lectures of history, we are starting out this lecture. So can you visualize the map? Can you visualize whatever I am speaking in front of you? I wanted to check that only. So here it is very clear that in this lecture I have not used whiteboard at all. Only I have discussed. Try to visualize. What is my request here? That try to observe this lecture many times and try to visualize whatever I am discussing here, and then observe my next lecture where I am drawing map and explaining out.